Al Jazeera's Andrew Simmons, he is now in Misurata. And Andrew, if you would, tell us what is going on. As I mentioned a moment ago, there is this claim that Gaddafi forces may be in the process of retreating and that the rebels are in control there. Is that true?
Not at this stage, Tony. I can tell you categorically that this city has not been liberated at this stage, despite certain claims made by opposition forces. I've been told by a number of opposition spokespeople in the past 2 hours that they have made major gains, and that's corroborated by other sources I've talked to. They have made major gains in the west of the city, and they have actually managed to get around the Gaddafi forces, blocking them near the western gate. And that is quite a significant development for the rebel forces. Now, what has happened is there's been a withdrawal. It would have seemed it could be a tactical withdrawal, although, of course, the Deputy Foreign Minister for Libya, Khalid K, Gaddafi's Deputy Foreign Minister, has said that this is because the surgical strikes they've been making aren't making any impact because of NATO air cover. Now, the rebel forces say that they're in a strong position. The key point which will emerge even more strongly over the coming hours is, in fact, the hospital at the west of the city, the Misurata hospital. That is where the Gaddafi forces have been basing themselves. That apparently is now under fierce fire, and we understand at one point the rebels were almost in control of it. Some opposition forces are claiming that they have full control, but I understand the most recent information I can get is that that hospital is still under Gaddafi force control, although there is a lot of fighting going on around it.
I see. Andrew, let me try this last question here. Misurata has been under siege for the past 2 months. What are your first impressions of the situation there?
Well, they're very early impressions, Tony. I've only been on the ground here 3 hours, and during those 2 to 3 hours we've seen a lot of shelling and also mortar fire, long-range mortar fire, landing to the west of the city. We're in a fairly safe position here, but that is a really large bombardment. One only has to imagine what sort of carnage and chaos is going on where those shells and the Grad rockets land, and indeed those long-range mortars. On arrival here, I arrived on a ship with ambulances on board, in a surreal situation, really. The port seemed very peaceful, very uneasy, but highly organized, a very large port. And then, of course, the thousands of migrants who are now coming out on International Office of Migration ships. One of those ships was alongside ours, taking on board these migrants. They're going to Benghazi, and then away from the port and looking at what was all of these containers in a strange position. All of these containers were improvised defences that the pro-democracy forces are using through the streets, which seemed sort of uneasily calm, and then to an area where you can see and hear, more importantly, hear very loudly the crump of fire from mortars and the whiz sound we all know of Grad rocket launchers. And of course, no one should be under the illusion that the Gaddafi forces have in any way sort of given up. Far from it. One has to watch out now that there won't be some sort of pincer movement around the rebel forces, and you may well get a sort of situation that's happening in the east where the rebels are making advances, then getting caught out and having to run back. That is possible. I'm not saying that will happen, but forgive me for using the military parlance, it's a very fluid situation around Tripoli Street, the front line, but certainly the rebels have moved right along there, and this is probably one of the biggest gains they've made throughout this horrendous siege.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, thank you. We'll leave you to your work. Andrew Simmons in Misurata.